It's recording.
Okay. Hi, I'm Haik Voskerchian. I got first place at the Skirmish at Adventures Academy after 8 rounds. So I went 4-1 in Swiss and then 3-0 in top 8. And I was playing Kassai. Is it good?
Oh my lord.
So, for those of you that don't know, Kassai is a very efficient hero because her second weapon swing costs 1 less, and every time she hits with a weapon, if she swung twice with a weapon, she makes a copper. One of these, which we'll see why that's important in a second. So, to start off with, for the equipment, I played Crown of Providence, Iron Song Versus in the arm spot, Courage of Bladehold, and Dynamo, obviously. And then the sabers as her weapons. And then Null Rune 3. So Null Rune Gloves, Hood, and Null Rune Boots for the Arcane Barrier for the Wizard matchup, as well as the Runeblade matchup. Makes sense. So, Kassai's general game plan is to take advantage of her really premium equipment suite, which I would say her engine are these 4 pieces here, and this is what really generates her value. So the general play pattern with her is that you're going to attack with the first saber, give it go again, and then attack with the second saber. And then if you have one floating, you can use Versus to gain advantage using by making a Courage, which will give your next weapon swing +1. As for Dynamo, you can block with this, and then if you've swung with 2 weapons, remove the Battle Worn counter from Dynamo. So it's really important to prioritize the Go Again for the Centauri Sabers, as well as the to remove the Dynamo counter. But since Iron Song Versus has come out, I think it's really important to start playing as many blues as possible in Kassai, so that you can threaten on average 8 value from a 2-card hand, not including the coppers. Because before with Braveforge Bracers, the first weapon would have to hit for you to gain value from the one floating blue that you pitched. We'll see what I mean in a second. So for your Go Again cards, you play 2 Spoils of War, which is the best Go Again card in Kassai, because it threatens 2 coppers on hit for each weapon that hits. Then I play 2 blue Hit and Run, just as a blue block 3 that also gives Go Again for free. I play all the Blade Runners, yellow, red, blue, as well as Run Through and Glint. So a lot of times with Kassai, you're going to pitch a blue, swing with the first saber. So you're going to pitch a blue, and then, where did I put it? Oh, here it is. You're going to pitch a blue, swing with the first saber, which will cost 1. Then you're going to use something like Run Through or Blade Runner to give the saber go again, or Spoils of War, and then you're going to swing the second saber for free. That means you'll have one floating. So if an opponent blocks out the first swing with equipment, then you're never going to make use of that one floating with a 2-card hand. So what you can now do from the new set is use Iron Song Versus to maximize the value from your blue pitch. And so then with Blade Runner, you'd be generating 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 value with Value Dynamo. So that's 2 cards for 9, not including the copper. That's pretty good. That's a decent rate. So that's why it's really important to try to play as many blues as possible in Kassai. So those are my Go Again cards. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 Go Again, and then Blood on Our Hands, which is 2 Go Again. Or which can be considered a Go Again card too, but really it's a combo finisher. So with this card, you can break 6 copper. So this is the reason why we make copper in this deck. It's for this card. You can break 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 copper. And then you can give each of your sword swings +1, go again, and attack twice. So then you'll be attacking for 12 with your swords, with your Centauri sabers, with Blood on Our Hands. So you'll attack for 3, then 3, and then 3, then 3, or 4, 4, 2, 2. And so it adds up to 12. And if you break Courage, this is a 1 card for 12 if you have 6 copper. So that's pretty good. So that means that if you break Courage, this card is worth 12. On average, a card's worth 3. So that means each of your coppers is worth a little bit over 1, with less than 2 with this card. So Kassai generates a lot of value from her equipment suite, from Versus and Dynamo, but she also generates a lot of value from making coppers once you see and resolve Blood on Our Hands. So then for the pumps, I play 1 route because it's really good if your opponent makes you go first. They'll usually block out the first swing with a card from hand to keep their equipment and to keep their life. Then you can route it and deal them 5 damage, and if it was an attack, deal them 6 damage. So that means that you've taken a big chunk of their health in Blitz by going first. So that's pretty good. I feel like 2 is just, I don't know, it's just a little too much, but I can see an argument for playing 2. I play 2 Slice and Dice Red because it's a 0 for 4. So the pumps in this deck have to be really, really good for you to play them, because you don't want to be wasting the 1 mana or the 1 energy pip on a pump when you could be playing it for Versus. Okay. You play 2 Out for Blood, which is a 1 for 4. You play 2 Punctures, which when played properly is a 1 for 4. And then 2 Outland Skirmishes, which is a 0 for 4 because it produces an extra copper. Well, it's a 0 for 3, but you generate copper, and what's a copper worth? Well, it depends on how you play Blood on Our Hands, and if you play it twice in the game, or so on and so forth. So sometimes the copper is extraneous and it's not worth anything, and sometimes that copper from going to 4 to 5 is worth a lot, because that's what gives you the +1 on your weapon swing. So those are the pumps and the go-agains. The rest of the cards are utility cards, so you could pretty much put anything in the spot. But like I said, Kassai only needs a 2-card hand to function and operate. So all of these cards are utility cards that could be made for your meta, but in the current Blitz meta, I play a lot of defense reactions. I play 2 Fates and 2 Sinks because Rhinar is a deck, Kassai is a deck, Dorinthia is a deck, Bravo is a deck. All those decks are really punished by a proper Sink or Fate from Arsenal, or even from hand. Plus it's just a 0 for 4. I also play 2 Sigil because you'll find that a lot of people will make you go first so that you don't have tempo. So you can just play Sigil and then pass, but this is also really just for the Kano matchup. It's very good. So I also played 2 That All You Got. This card is a defense reaction that only blocks for 3, and when you pitch it, only pitches for yellow. So it's not really good in those terms, but this card is really, really good into the mirror. So you can block their first Centauri Saber swing because a lot of Kassai's cards pump the second swing. So you can stop their first swing, block it out, and then draw a card. So on average, in this deck, a card is worth 3 or more. So when you block their first swing and draw a card, this card is like a defense reaction for 5. That's worth 5. It also denies them a copper. You can also pitch it and, Centauri Saber, Blade Runner, Centauri Saber Spoils of War, which is very good. You won't get the value from Versus, but that's also a play that you can make. So I play this. I can definitely see an argument to take it out. If there aren't a lot of Kassais in your meta, and there aren't a lot of Iras, and there aren't a lot of chains, then you can definitely take this out. This is also very, very good into Ira. You block their second Kadachi for 2, and then there you go, it's a 0 for 5. Against chain, you block the Rosetta Thorn for 2, and then you draw a card, so it's a 0 for 5. So basically, if it's blocking 2, it's really good. Otherwise, you might want to swap it out for another card. I play 2 Hold the Line. This card is a blue. These are really niche defense reactions, but this is for the Rhinar matchup. The Savage Beatdown Rhinar is pretty good. When they resolve Blood Rush Bellows, the regular Rhinar is pretty good. It's also for the Chain matchup when they resolve Art of War and draw 2. So in those matchups, this is a 0 for 5. It's also a blue, so it pitches, so it's okay. I play 2 Warmonger's Diplomacy for the Chain matchup and for the Mirror. So a lot of Kassai's played hit and run, push forward. They might even play Rainbow Slice and Dice, Precision Press even. So this card is really good into, actually it's very good into Kassai. It stops their Blood on her hands turns. It's a little bit of a double-edged sword, but when you play this, you have to know that you have to build your deck around it. So this deck plays a lot of attack reactions that give your cards go again, and it plays a lot of utility cards like defense and attack reactions. So I don't play, I only play 2 copies of Hit and Run. I only play 2 copies of Slice and Dice. So it's not that bad, but it's very good into Chain. It's really good when it works, and it makes the Chain matchup easier so you can fatigue them. And then finally I play 2 Minerva. This card is very, very good in the slower matchups. If you land a turn 2 Minerva and the game goes on for 8-10 turns, and if Minerva sticks, which in a slower matchup they're going to be trying to block out your sabers, maybe trying to fatigue you. If the game goes on for 8 turns, this Minerva is getting 16 value through the course of the game. That's 1 card for 16. That's really good. So there, some dashes they get smart. They put in. They try to assemble Exodia with their items, so Purifier, Chamber, and block everything out. So this is very good into those kinds of dashes. Actually, that's how I won the top 8 finals against Dash. It's also really, really good against the Mirror because it makes your weapons more efficient than theirs. And it's also very good into decks that play attack actions because now their attack actions block for 3, but really they block for 2 because the Saber itself will pump by 1. Minerva will pump the Saber by 1. So if an opponent blocks with an attack action for 3, then they're going to take 1 damage from your Saber because of Minerva. So it's very good, helps you find blood in her hands, makes your deck more efficient. It's just a good card. So I play 2 of that. If worst comes to worst, you can block with it. And we'll see what else we can do with it. So, yeah, so if you get clunked, if you think Minerva's clunky, it can be. You can always crown it away, which is why I play the crown. You have to be very conservative with how you use this, because this is your get out of jail free card. So if you have a Minerva stuck in your hand for whatever reason, just, you know, tuck it and draw a new card. Okay, and then the sideboard was 2 Morlock Hill and 2 Oasis. So you can just side out the 2 Fates and 2 Sinks for the Kano matchup, which is your worst matchup by far. Everything else is beatable. I would say that this deck only suffers into Kano, really. So you bring in the AB3, Null-Rune Hood, Null-Rune Gloves, and Null-Rune Boots into Kano, and you bring this in, and you go second, and hopefully this is enough. You might think this is kind of a meme card, but if you get a Minerva in your arsenal early, or even, you know, if you block out the Kano's Arcane and you're very patient against the Kano, this can be a huge blowout against them. You just keep the Minerva in arsenal, and you never play it, and you wait, and you wait, and you wait, and you just, you know, you swing when you can, and you keep the Morlock Hill in hand. Then eventually the Kano will try to pop off when you threaten lethal, and that's when you play the Morlock Hill for their Blazing Aether, banishing this, and then surviving, and then oftentimes that's when your Saber Swing will resolve and Kano will die. So it's definitely won me several games. It won me a game in my skirmish against a Kano. So at worst, it's just another blue. Oh, that's the deck. So if there's a few changes that you might want to make depending on your meta. So another really bad matchup is the Nourishing Riptide. If you want, you can put this in. I don't know, you might cut a Fate Foreseen or something for this. So just put this in and just attack with it and never play a reaction or do anything, and you'll fatigue them with this. Actually, I didn't play it because no one in my meta plays the Nourishing Riptide, and it's a pretty fringe deck, so you don't need to worry about it all that much. Another card I thought about playing was Stroke of Foresight, so that you can sink for a better card and get Minerva out of your hand. It's pretty good for that. It's also an attack reaction that pumps your first Saber, which can be relevant against Husk. But I've kind of moved away from trying to attack chain to beat them by just fatiguing them with the Hold the Lines, That All You Got, Oasis, and Sigil. So I took these out. You can play them. Precision Press is a card that people play. If Chain ever leaves the meta, I can see an argument for playing this because it's okay into the mirror. And you can cut Warmonger's Diplomacy for this. So this is the card that I cut for Warmonger's Diplomacy. So you could either cut Warmonger's Diplomacy or hold the line for Precision Press if you think it's that important. But for now, I think that I'm going to stick with those 2 cards because they help fatigue the chain better. And then more blues that, you know, blue Slice and Dice is really good. The yellow Slice and Dice is really good. And then finally, the card that I don't play that a lot of people play is... So finally, In the Swing. This is not a card I played because sometimes you don't get Go Again, and then you really would rather have a card that does something, either blocks for 4 or pitches for more or does something instead of this. It's a really good card though, and I can see how it might be played in other metas where you're the aggressor. But alright, thank you.